Hi scholars, happy Monday. We're going to be starting our new Unit 9 this week, so at this time you should click to the video description beneath and open up the link to our Unit 9 reader. Before we get started though, I want to look at Spirit Week this week in review, and a couple things before we begin. So have your packet ready, your reader out, and let's talk about Spirit Week. So as you can see, our Spirit Week schedule is right here. Today, on the 11th, we have Pajama Day. Stay in your pajamas all day, and you can send in a picture to prove it. If you look in the bottom right, you're actually going to be able to send in your photos to Mr. Cowan. So in the bottom right phone number, we have his phone number. And then we have, I want you to send a picture to him of you any day you're participating with your name, and then also include your homeroom. So if you're in Kenyon, include Kenyon, or in Central, include Central Michigan. Each day, they're going to get a grower team point and then a ticket for the raffle. And then at the end of the week on Facebook, they're going to be doing raffle prizes. I don't know what the raffle prizes are yet, but I know there's going to be a winner for kindergarten to second grade, a winner for third through fifth, and then a staff one as well. So even us teachers get a chance. Tomorrow is Pet or Stuffed Animal Day. So if you have a stuffed animal or a pet, you can include them with you. That should be pretty easy. We all like showing off our pets during office hours. A little bit weirder on Wednesday, Dress Like a Teacher Day. Dressing like a teacher is extra funny and weird right now. You can just wear pajamas or probably a hoodie and you'll look like Mr. Shine most days nowadays. Thursday is Crazy Hair Day, so you can get really wild. Unfortunately, my office hours are on Wednesday, but I'd love to see some of those, so make sure you send in your photos for Crazy Hair Day. And then on Friday, it's You Prep Spirit Day. You Prep Spirit Day. So that's school colors. If anything, that's a day just to wear your uniform for a bit. It will probably feel weird and foreign because it's been forever since we've been wearing our school uniform. Mr. Sheehan has the school uniform as well. I might pop that one on that day for my video. Make sure though that you take a photo and submit it so you get in that raffle, and I'll let you know when I find out what kind of cool prizes are going to be in our raffle as well. So this week in review, today we're starting our Unit 9, the Badlands Sleuth, Chapter 1. Your reader looks like this. This may look like a science reader. In fact, it's a fictional story, so it's something like our silent reading books or our lit study. It may seem like we're going to be reading about just a scientific reader. We are going to be learning some scientific concepts and studying them, but for the most part, we're going to be doing it through the lens of a fictional story and reading about characters, what they experience, what they find out in these Badlands, and then using scientific knowledge at the same time. So we're combining both subjects at once, our fictional informational skills and our scientific skills. Tomorrow is going to be an enrichment day. You're going to write a single paragraph outline about something in your house that has matter or substance in it. I'll talk more about that later. Wednesday and Thursday, there'll be a video where we do part 1 and part 2 of chapter 2. And then on Friday, we're going to be doing chapter 3. So this is our very last unit of the year. We have about 2.5 or 3 weeks of it before we get to our iReady spring diagnostic and then our end of the year test. Before we begin, make sure that you've completed your Unit 8 assessment on Edulastic. I had about 25 to 30% of scholars done by Saturday, so hopefully by this Monday, and then by Wednesday night when it closes, I have a lot more than that. Double check your weekly iReady progress. So every weekend, I'm the one who updates your iReady minutes for math and reading. You should have 45 minutes each, 45 minutes in math iReady, and then 45 minutes in reading iReady. Now, I know that sounds like a lot. That's less than you would be doing in school, though, so I think we can tough it out a little bit. And then lastly, make sure you have your digital reader open whenever you're watching our videos, like right now, or working on your packet. That digital reader is always in the video description. If I still have scholars texting me that they can't find their digital reader, I'm just going to tell them to watch the videos because I've shared that information a lot in here. First up, we have our objective of the day, our daily objective. I can explain how the geography is like the landmass or setting. The geography of the setting, the Badlands, will drive the plot of the story through speaking and writing. So in our vocabulary in a moment, we're going to talk about what are Badlands. Geography is just the landmass. So the geography of your area, you may live in a very flat area, you may live in an apartment building, you may live in the countryside. Geography of the setting is what nature and the land around you looks like, and how that land impacts the plot through speaking and writing. So we have geography, we have scientific concepts, but we still need to use our literary and language arts concepts like plot skills and our speaking and writing abilities. Looking at our vocabulary in our new unit right now, so we have muttered, to have said something in a low or hard to hear voice, often with annoyance. You might mutter something under your breath if you're annoyed, but you don't want someone around you to hear it. Shimmered, shining with light that seems to move. Think of like a crystal that's like something like really bright, and when light hits it, it gets even brighter. It's shimmering. Barren is something that's bleak and lifeless. The Badlands are barren. Look at the example in the top right. That's a badland. Lurched is a movement. It's a verb. It's when you make a sudden or unsteady movement. Something might be lurching forward. Think of a car breaking down and it's like sputtering around the side of the road. It's like barely moving a little bit at a time. Chemistry is the science of matter. And matter is any substance that occupies space and has mass. So everything in the universe has matter. You have matter. I have matter. Our breakfasts have had matter. Our phones have matter. But the big difference is their mass, which is the amount of matter in a substance or object. So you may be able to tell that Mr. Sheeline has more matter than my phone because I'm a lot bigger than it. Mass is the amount of matter inside of something. Matter is how we just determine how much space an object takes up. Lastly, as a little bonus, Badlands, our unit is titled the Badlands Sleuth, so we should know what they're investigating. It's a dry area without plants and with large rocks that the weather has worn into strange shapes. So if you look in the top right, Badlands are an area that don't have a lot of life. You don't see many plants or animals there in the first place. It's typically an area we would avoid, but it has a lot of history attached to it. If you flip to the next page in your packet, we're now going to be starting our digital reader. And also, you have your big question at the top there. What is the stuff that makes up the universe? Well, the stuff that makes up all of us we just talked about is matter. But the one thing I want you to focus on while we're reading today is the difference between a narrative and an informational text. Because we've read both types of text this year in our class. Narratives is something that's literary or fiction, usually not real. Think of something like our play, Midsummer Night's Dream. Think of Don Quixote. These are things that are fictional. They have dialogue, character, figurative language, exposition, and settings. I want you to fill in those details, like dialogue, in the box beneath narrative, so you see what examples of it is. And then on the right, informational. These are things like nonfiction and textbooks. These are things that are informational, info in the front they're trying to teach us. So that's stuff like our textbook we're reading right now. It's things like our Native American unit. And then some examples of things that we're going to see today that shows it's informational is the information about fossils, excavation, matter, states of matter, mass, and weather. Now, these are all things that may be in a narrative, but if we're primarily understanding and studying them, it makes it informational. That's what makes our unit reader so unique. It's a little bit of a blending of both. There's a story in here, there's a fictional story, but it's still trying to be informational and teach us things at the same time. We're going to be reading page 1 through 5 before we take a break to analyze some words at the bottom of the page. So you should have your digital reader open from the description below. On page 1, it starts with Welcome to Fossil Camp. It's got to be over 100 degrees out here, Amy muttered, staring through the windshield of the pickup. The Badlands of eastern Montana shimmered in the heat under a pale, cloudless sky. Barren ridges of weathered rock towered above dry gullies and patches of stiff prairie grass. Amy aired the air conditioner vent so it blew directly in her face. I really don't like being hot. I'm afraid it's even hotter out there at the dig site, said Tess, swerving to avoid a pothole in the narrow dirt track. Lately, it's been over 90 degrees in the shade. Great, thought Amy. She fanned herself with a paperback book. It was her favorite kind of book, a mystery featuring a clever detective. She had read most of it on the flight from Chicago, and then finished it up while she and Matt waited for Tess to pick him up at the small airport in Billings, Montana. Amy glanced at her twin brother. He was sandwiched between their two backpacks in the back seat with a big grin on his freckled face. Last month, when Matt had learned about Fossil Camp, he burst into her room waving the camp brochure. "We can actually dig for dinosaur fossils," he whooped. Amy had planned to spend her summer vacation at home, reading mysteries out on the breezy screen porch, and drinking tall glasses of icy lemonade. But Matt had talked their parents in the fossil camp, and Amy into coming with him. Now sweltering in the heat, she was having second thoughts. "What's Dr. Forrester like?" Amy asked. She read in the brochure that Dr. Pam Forrester was the paleontologist in charge of Fossil Camp. "She's amazing," Tess replied, "and an expert on Cretaceous dinosaurs." "Like a Tyrannosaurus?" Matt asked. "Like Tyrannosaurus," Tess said, smiling at him in the rearview mirror. "I hope we make an important discovery," Matt said, digging his water bottle out of his pack. "Anything's possible," Tess said. "These dry badlands are among the best places in America to look for fossils, especially dinosaur bones." She swerved again, but failed to avoid a deep rut, and the pickup lurched hard to one side. "Sorry about the bumps," she said, "but the road washes out a little bit every time it rains." "Who are the other campers?" Amy asked. "There are 2 other girls and 2 other boys," Tess replied. "Daria and Julian are your age. Felix and Crystal just finished 6th grade, so they're a year ahead of you in school." Amy hoped the other boys would be nice, because together with Dr. Forster and Tess, they were all going to be camped out in this desolate landscape for 10 days. She glanced back at her brother again. Matt made new friends easily, and he also didn't mind heat, or dirt, or bugs, or, Amy sat up suddenly as a new thought occurred to her. "Are there snakes out there?" Tess nodded, but kept her eyes on the track. "Plenty. But we rarely see them during the day because it's so hot and they stay curled up in their holes or under rock ledges." Double great, Amy thought, swallowing hard. Snakes made her sweat as much as hot weather. And what did Tess mean about not seeing snakes during the day? Did they come out at night? She was about to ask when they crested a low rise and Tess suddenly pointed. "There's our camp!" A cluster of tents stood in the shadow of a high, barren ridge. A slender woman with a deep tan waved as they pulled in. When they stopped, she strode over to the pickup truck, followed by 4 kids. "Welcome to Fossil Camp, Amy and Matt. I'm Dr. Forrester, and these are your fellow campers." She quickly made the introductions. Felix was short and very thin. Felix was tall and very thin, with bony knees and elbows. Julian was about Matt's height, with close cropped hair and a friendly grin. Daria was average height with short, dark hair and watchful eyes that seemed to take in everything at a glance. Crystal was taller than Daria. Her blonde hair was swept to one side in a ponytail, and she wore big, dark glasses. "Why don't you all help Amy and Matt get settled?" Dr. Forrester suggested. "Then we'll have orientation in our field lab. That's the big canvas tent with the awning out front." A wave of hot, dry air hit Amy as she stepped into the tent she was going to share with Crystal and Daria. "It's unbearable in here," she choked. "How are we supposed to sleep?" "Dr. Forrester says it gets a lot cooler at night," Daria said. There were 3 cots inside, each with a sleeping bag and a pillow. Crystal took off her sunglasses and used them to point at the cots, one by one. "I'm here and Daria's there, which leaves us you in the bed by the door." "Sorry." Amy thought sleeping close to the tent flap might be the coolest spot in the night, so she didn't mind not having a choice. She dropped her backpack into her cot. "Did you bring your phone?" Daria asked. Amy nodded. "But I haven't gotten a signal since we left Billings." Daria sighed and looked disappointed. "I thought maybe it was just my phone. I've never been anywhere where I couldn't make a call. It's like being in the middle of nowhere." "We are in the middle of nowhere," Crystal said. She reached under her pillow, grabbed what looked like a large sketchbook, and stuffed it under her arm. "Come on, I don't want to miss anything." "Cool camp, huh?" Matt whispered to Amy as they joined the others in the lab. "This is going to be so much fun." Hoping her brother was right, Amy tried to put the heat and the possibility of snakes out of her mind as everyone gathered around Dr. Forrester. She was standing next to a long table in which there were boxes, some instruments that Amy recognized from science class, and 6 small cloth bags. "Over the next 10 days, you're going to get first-hand experience excavating fossils," Dr. Forrester began. "You'll also begin to learn about other things that paleontologists do." Felix raised a lanky hand. When do we eat?" "Breakfast is at 6 o'clock, and we'll leave for the fossil site at 7 o'clock, along with a packed lunch and a cooler full of cold drinks. We'll return to the camp around 5, have dinner at 6, and you'll have some time to relax around the campfire before bed." Felix raised his hand again. "And what about snacks?" Dr. Forrester suppressed a smile. Don't worry, Felix, there'll be plenty of food. Then she gestured towards Tess. And now, Tess has something to show you that I think you'll find pretty interesting. She's one of my students, by the way, and is getting her degree in paleontology along with a minor in chemistry. Chemistry? Julian raised an eyebrow. What's chemistry got to do with fossils? Actually, quite a bit, Tess replied. Chemistry is the reason we have fossils out here to hunt for and to collect. She reached into the pocket of her pants, of her jeans, and drew out something dark and curved she held up for all them to see. Fossils like this. Wow, a raptor claw, Matt gasped. This claw belongs to a velociraptor, the type of dinosaur that certain movies made so famous. The dinosaur whose fossil bones you'll be excavating were closely related to a velociraptor, so there's a chance we might unearth a claw similar to this. Tess handed the fossil claw to Daria and asked her to pass it around. When Amy took the claw from Daria, she was surprised at how heavy it was. What is a fossil exactly? You'll learn a lot about fossils and how they're formed while you're here at camp, Tess replied. But for now, think of a fossil as matter that's undergone a change. Matter? Julian asked, frowning. Matter is everything in and around you, Tess explained. All that stuff on the Earth and our solar system, our galaxy, and the rest of the universe. You mean the solid stuff, right? Julian's frown had disappeared. Not just the solids. Matter exists in different forms or states. Most matter on the Earth exists as a solid, a liquid, or a gas. For example, that fossil claw is matter in a solid state. Water is matter in a liquid state, and the air we're breathing is matter in a gaseous state, or gas. Tess took the claw from Felix. Most of the fossil bones we'll be excavating, Dr. Forrester and I will study back at our lab at the university. Some of the smaller ones, though, we'll analyze right here. Part of analyzing fossils includes recording information about each one. What kind of information, Crystal thought, quietly flipping open the book she brought along. Amy saw that its pages were filled with drawings and realized it was indeed a sketchbook. We're going to take a moment and pause on the end of page 5 for now, and I want you to look at the terms below. We're going to do some word work and break those down before finishing the last 2 pages. So looking now, we have matter. That's any physical substance, anything that takes up space. Please write that on the vocabulary line underneath digging up words. We talked about matter in our vocab as well. States of matter, we actually had Tess explain to us on page 7, or on page 5. It's matter that comes in a form such as a solid, liquid, and a gas. So, solid is anything like the book in my hands to the desk I'm sitting at. Liquid is something like a bottle of water. And a gas can be anything. Even think back to the water cycle you guys studied earlier this year in science class. You've seen water can be a solid if it's an ice cube, it as a liquid form, and then as a gas when it's steam and evaporates up in the clouds. Physical properties is anything physical about an object. It's anything you can use your senses on. So if you can taste, touch, smell, hear, or see an object, that's a physical property of it. And lastly, mass is the amount of matter in a substance or object. If an object has high mass, it usually means it's heavy or big. The more mass it has, the heavier or bigger it might be. So something like our planet has a lot more mass than a single person. Let's look at the very end, pages 6 and 7. It starts with a big photo of a raptor claw on page 6. We typically start by recording a fossil's physical properties. We can use our senses to describe the physical properties for a given type of matter. For instance, how would you describe this fossil claw? Crystal began sketching the fossil in Tess's hand. It is a smooth, curved surface, she said softly. Very good, said Tess, smiling. Shape and texture, the roughness or smoothness or something, are physical properties of matter. Some fossils we find might be smooth like this claw, while others might be rough or pitted or have interesting marks on them. So any one of us can determine the physical properties of a substance, of an object, just by touching it and using our senses. Chemical properties are things that we have to study using scientific methods like experiments or using chemicals. But the chemical properties are different than the physical properties. We're going to talk about chemical properties later this week. For right now, just think of your senses, your 5 senses, and how you can use them to analyze an object. Marks, Daria looked puzzled. Grooves, dents, or possibly bite marks made by predators. Awesome, Matt murmured. If color is a physical property, then we can record that the claw is really dark brown, Julian suggested. Tess nodded. Basically anything you see, touch, taste, or smell is a physical property of matter. You really want us to taste and smell the fossils? Felix asked, wide-eyed. Tess burst out laughing. That won't be necessary, Felix. But keep in mind that people want to see colors and describe textures differently. A fossil that looks dark brown to Julian might look different to someone else. Mass, on the other hand, she continued, is a physical property of matter that can be measured. Mass is the amount of matter in a substance or object. In fact, a formal definition of matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. Tess stepped over to the table. Mass is typically measured in metric units, such as grams. We use a balance to measure the mass of small fossils such as these fossil claws. She placed the claw on the flat pan of the balance and slid the weight along its arms. As you can see, the claw has a mass of 113.4 grams. If you don't know how to use a balance, I can show you tonight. That's because right now, Dr. Forster said, gathering up the cloth bags and handing them out, we're going to head out to the dig site. These bags contain tools that paleontologists use to excavate fossils. So grab your hats and let's go meet our dinosaurs. Matt nudged Amy and she saw the glow of excitement in his eyes. Amy wanted to feel excitement too, but she wished she hadn't let Matt talk her into coming to fossil camp. She wished she was back home in Chicago instead of being stuck out in such a hot place with snakes. So, before they leave, Dr. Forster says that they're going to use their tools that paleontologists use. Let's break down the word paleontologist. So, a paleontologist is a combination of 3 Greek words. Like most of our language, all of the words have roots in different languages. Paleontologist is just the study of fossils. We know it's a study because look at the ending, suffix, ology. Think of words like biology, geology, meteorology, weatherman. Paleontology is made up of these 3 Greek words. Our first one is paleos, which is ancient, and it's shortened to paleo usually. So paleo means ancient. So it's the study of something ancient. Onto, paleo, onto. Onto is just being, and logia means study. So logia is a word we've adapted into ology in English. So it's the study of an ancient being. Think of something like a paleontologist wouldn't study like animals who are alive today. They study the fossils and remains of ancient beings or things like old cultures or dinosaurs. That's actually going to wrap it up for our day on Monday and our chapter 1. Tomorrow, I'm going to upload a video for what you're expected to do for your single paragraph outline. You're just going to have to skim the chapter, and then I want you to write an outline that's going to talk about an object in your house, and I want you to record the physical properties of it, not the chemical properties, but I will talk more about that tomorrow. Have a great day, scholars, and I hope you have a good Spirit Week. Bye.